I live in a nice neighborhood in France. I will not disclose the name of the city for privacy reasons. I moved here about a year and a half ago, and honestly, life was going great. I had friendly neighbors who came to my house to introduce themselves as soon as I moved in. There was, however, one exception, my closest neighbor. He was reclusive to say the least, and he never really talked to me and had a big fence surrounding his house. We'll call him Tom. Tom was a weird guy ever since I moved in, but I honestly couldn't complain about him. He kept to himself and went about his business, never bothered me or anyone else as far as I'm aware, and was never loud. That's why when one night I woke up at 3 a.m. to hear him screaming in his backyard, I thought he was in trouble. I went to put on my trousers, but the screaming suddenly cut out. And I don't mean stopped, it sounded like you pressed stop on a tape. So I thought nothing of it. However, I did have trouble sleeping that night because my mind was wondering what could have happened. Next day I go about my business, I wake up, have some coffee and breakfast, and I head off to work. I see Tom on his front porch. I wave to him, and just like he always does, he half-heartedly waves back. I guess nothing is wrong after all, I mumbled under my breath. I was sure there was a good explanation for it. I come home from work more exhausted than usual. I take a shower, have dinner, and decide I'm going to sleep early tonight. I woke up once again at 3 a.m. at the dot because of my neighbor's screams. Once again, I go to put on my trousers and the screaming stopped. This time, however, I'm going to go to his house and confront him. He was disturbing my sleep after all. I went to his yard and I didn't see anything outside, and all the lights were off in the house. I was sure it was him screaming, however, so I decided to knock on his front door. Knock knock. Hey Tom, could you come out for a second please? I said into the chilly night air. No response. Knock knock knock. Tom, I've heard you screaming. I know you're not asleep, I said in a tone a bit more agitated than before. Once again, no answer. It was starting to get really cold, so I just decided I was going to confront him when I head off to work in the morning. I do my morning routine, and as I leave the house, I'm thinking on what to say without looking like an unfriendly neighbor that gets bothered by everything. I go to my driveway and I look over. This time he's not on his front porch. I could, however, hear noises that sounded like digging in his backyard just over the fence. I go to check it out. I was planning to confront him anyway, so it wouldn't hurt going over to his house to do so. It would give us more privacy anyways. I head over, and as I expected, he's digging a hole in his backyard. It seemed like he was doing it for a pretty long time based on the size of the hole. Hey Tom, how's it going? I asked in a friendly tone and got back grunts as a response. I wanted to talk to you about the last 2 nights. You've been waking me up at 3 a.m. screaming, and it's not very nice. I have to get up early for work, I said, trying to sound as friendly as possible with the irritation of being ignored building up. Tom finally stopped digging and turned to me. That was the first time I actually got a good look at his face, and he looked like he hasn't slept in days. Okay, is the only response I got from him. Thinking he was going to stop doing it, I simply turned around, said goodbye, and left for work. I came home from work, and for some reason, my curiosity made me look in his backyard. I took a look at the spot where the hole was just this morning, but it was gone. And I don't mean covered up. It looked like it never even happened. Weird, I thought, but I just headed back to my house, watched some movies, and I got an idea to put my alarm 5 minutes before 3 a.m. and see if he does it again. And if so, for how long does he do it? It sounded like the screams were the same length both times I've heard them. I wake up at 2:55 a.m. and I wait patiently, and without a fail, exactly at 3 a.m., my neighbor starts screaming. I time it and it lasted exactly 10 seconds. Was this some sort of recording? I said to no one in particular. It has to be. It would be very difficult, if not impossible, for a human being to be that precise every time. So I time him for 2 more nights, and surely enough, every time it starts at 3 a.m. and ends in 10 seconds on the dot. I was mostly confused by the sounds. I thought it had to be a recording or something, so I decided to mount a video camera on my house looking down at his backyard. It was still on my property and caught parts of my yard, so I wouldn't get in trouble with the law if he decided to go to such extent. So I mount the camera, wait until 3 a.m. and the screaming to stop. I take out the tape to see it, and I don't see anything. It was too dark. He didn't use any lighting. Also, something I failed to mention, every morning without fail he would dig a hole in the ground and it would be gone by the time I'm home. Well, the only way is for me to get the night vision extension for my camera, I thought to myself, and decided I'm going to do just that tomorrow on my way home from work. I got into the store, bought the extension, and headed back home, excited to see what is my neighbor actually doing and to finally figure out why he's screaming or playing a tape of himself screaming. I got home, put on the extension, and waited for the time to hit. At exactly 3 a.m., I hear the screaming again. The same screaming I was getting used to hearing. It lasted 10 seconds, as usual, but when I got my camera and played the video, I found something that would chill me to my bones. What I saw was my neighbor going into the spot where the hole usually was, pick up the grass patch that somehow fit perfectly to cover the hole up to the naked eye, and there was a wooden trapdoor under it. Without hesitation, he opened the hatch, got in, and exactly when 3 a.m. hit, I could hear the screams. They were coming from inside. The truly disturbing thing is what came out of the trapdoor. It was my neighbor, but he looked even weaker. He looked half dead almost. I had to know what was under that trapdoor, and I knew he left every Sunday to visit the church, so I waited until Sunday to make my move. When the Sunday came around, I waited for him to head off to the church, and I slowly went to the spot, which was now still covered with the grass patch, even though it would be a normal hole at this time of the morning usually. I lift the patch, open the hatch, and I see nothing. It's just a normal hole. I felt silly for even trying to do it, but something told me that there was more to it. So I decided that I will open it at night when he's finished with his screaming and take a look for myself what's inside of it. Night came around and I was prepared. I waited for his screams, and when they ended, I headed out for his backyard, for the hole in his backyard. In that moment, I did something I regret and will regret for the rest of my life. I opened the hatch. What I saw in there is not explainable. Human minds are not meant to see or experience such things. I felt lost. At that moment, I screamed. I screamed for 10 seconds. No more, no less. What I saw in there was a void, not just darkness. I felt enveloped by it. I felt like I could see everything and nothing at the same time. I felt powerful, yet so weak. I finally understood why he looked so exhausted. The void needs a host to feed, and it needs to feed to exist. So I'm writing this story to ask someone to come help me dig a hole. 3:01 a.m. is getting closer. I don't know what the hell happened a few days ago. Maybe one of you can shed some light on it. 4 days ago, me and my girlfriend Lauren are in our house about to binge watch Game of Thrones. We both had the day off. After plopping down on the couch with a big ass bowl of chicken nuggets, we spent the next 2 hours or so watching it. Then my phone rang. I stared at it for a few seconds, making sure I was seeing it right. It was Lauren's number on the caller ID, but her phone was sitting on the table. I showed it to her. Well, this should be interesting. Answer it. So I answered it. Hey babe, the shop is pretty dead right now. I've got the laptop. You want to come down here? We can watch a movie. She works in a computer shop. When she's working and I'm off, that's usually what we do. Who is this? What do you mean? It's Lauren. Nice try. You're spoofing your caller ID. This is Rachel, isn't it? Rachel is my sister, but it did sound like Lauren on the phone. Why would Rachel have my phone? I just said it's Lauren. What's your problem? Okay, if this is Lauren, what's the password on the laptop? It's... Are you done playing? I hung up after that, then turned to Lauren. Did you put someone up to this? Of course I didn't. I wouldn't give out my password. I use the same one for everything. I wasn't sure what to do after that, so we just got back to the show. I didn't give it much thought until 2 days later. I was still off, but Lauren had to work. Her boss Mark was there, but he's pretty cool about me hanging out. We got to talking about the phone call from fake Lauren. When we mentioned it happened and that she wasn't working then, he looked confused. But you were working. Chloe called in sick and she told me you would cover her shift. No, I was at home. Chloe never called me. Let's see what happened then. Mark pulled up the video from the security cameras and we officially entered what the f territory. In there, in the video timestamp showing the same time as the phone call, was Lauren at the counter. There's no denying it was her. Same outfit she was wearing that day, same streak of purple in her hair, same tattoos on her arms, but it gets weirder. Not only was the laptop sitting on the counter, the same laptop we were watching Game of Thrones on at the time, but the Lauren in the video was on her phone, and she was saying exactly what the woman on the phone said to me. Here comes the weirdest part. Mark fast forwards the video to when Lauren gets off. We watch her send a text, and a few minutes later, guess who shows up to get her? I do. Somehow I'm picking Lauren up from work, while at the same time, Lauren and I are at home. A different camera shows them get in my car, which was in the garage at the time, and drive away. They never showed up at our house. Where did they go? Who were they?